For you.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation.
If the terminal cancer patient that hired you to film some of his final days turned out to be a bloodthirsty psychopath hell-bent on being your best friend, what would you do? I'm going to break down the mistakes made by the freelance videographer, what he should have done differently, and how to beat the serial killer in Creep. Have you ever gone to meet someone without knowing exactly what you're walking into? They could be trying to convert you into their religion or rope you into a multi-level marketing scheme. Or they might want to lure you out into the woods so they can pay you to film them in the bathtub while plotting your murder. The internet is a crazy place. Aaron's been hired by a complete stranger to provide his videography services, and discretion is appreciated. He also likes filming himself while driving, but I'm sure that's the extent of his poor judgment. Aaron fills us in on the details of his arrangement, and there's really not much for him to go off of. We learn that he knows absolutely nothing. If the terminal cancer patient that hired you to film some of his final days turned out to be a bloodthirsty psychopath hell-bent on being your best friend, what would you do? I'm going to break down the mistakes made by the freelance videographer, what he should have done differently, and how to beat the serial killer in Creep. Have you ever gone to meet someone without knowing exactly what you're walking into? They could be trying to convert you into their religion or rope you into a multi-level marketing scheme. Or they might want to lure you out into the woods so they can pay you to film them in the bathtub while plotting your murder. The internet is a crazy place. Aaron's been hired by a complete stranger to provide his videography services, and discretion is appreciated. He also likes filming himself while driving, but I'm sure that's the extent of his poor judgment. Aaron fills us in on the details of his arrangement, and there's really not much for him to go off of. We learn that he knows absolutely nothing about the client, but they're willing to pay him $1,000 per day, and that's good enough for this hungry go-getter to hop in his yellow
You need something? Hello.
by himself. He even entertains the
See you around.
some lonely rich cougar that just wants to sink her claws into his supple young body. I sure hope so, Aaron. After a scenic country drive, we find ourselves in the small resort town of Crestline. It's home to lush pine forests, a clear blue lake, and punks skateboarding down the middle of the road. Get off the street, dude. You're gonna get mowed down by some idiot driving while filming himself in the camcorder. Aaron pulls up to a long cemented driveway beside a large vacation home.
What can I do for you?
The yellow front door indicating he's found the right place. After humping
Have a
up
good
the
one.
stairs and knocking on the door, it seems like on its own. He can't get anyone on the phone, and there's no way to leave a message. Something's not right about this job. If Aaron spends any time at all in this line of work, he should know $1,000 for a day of amateur filming with a home video camera is too good to be true. He doesn't even know the first name of the person who hired him, just the address of where to meet and that they'd appreciate the question. When Aaron responded to the ad, he shared his name so he could do a little detective work. The client refusing to provide a first and last name is a bad sign. The only reason they'd want to conceal their identity is if they were planning something they don't want tied back to them. He does have a phone number for the client. He doesn't have a voicemail set up, which is another yellow flag. He should have made sure he could reach someone at the number before
Hey there,
driving all
how
the way
are
out
you?
there. Looking it up on Google
See you
also
later.
sheds some light on who he might be meeting with. At the very least, Aaron should look up the home address to see if he can find the owner. If that turns up nothing, the situation should be suspicious enough to call off the job. If Aaron just can't afford to pass on the opportunity, he should have offered a friend a cut of the payment to come with him.
Things on her, friend.
Hiring him was particular about discretion, but a partner to help him with the camera work
For the Alliance.
Claim demeans Aaron come alone, call it off. But if Aaron is still hell-bent on taking this job, he should have at least told a friend or loved one where he was going, how long he was going to be there, and what he was going to be doing. He should have then checked in with this person the moment he arrived to update them on the situation. It's never a bad idea to let someone know what's going on, especially when there's an element
What are you
of
looking
risk
for?
involved. Psycho stalkers and bloodthirsty monsters aren't the only thing we need to worry about. Often we can be a danger to ourselves.
Go with honor,
A
friend.
two-decade statistical analysis revealed that knives cause more disabling injuries than any other type of hand tool. Over the course of a person's lifetime, you have a 10% chance of sustaining a serious injury with a knife. You can't go your whole life without using a knife, but you can minimize the risk by using proven techniques and high-quality, superbly sharp kitchen knives from this video sponsor, Kamikoto. Why is a sharp knife safer than a dull knife? A dull blade requires more pressure to cut, increasing the chance that the knife will slip with a greater force behind it. A sharp knife bites the surface more readily. Kamikoto's
It's too
knives
far
aren't
away.
just sharp. They're well-made, durable, and hold that sharp edge longer than other knives. This is because their knives are made with quality steel sourced from mills in Japan, honed and perfected with traditional Japanese techniques by expert bladesmiths. This is why they stand behind their knives with a lifetime guarantee. I'm not a Star Restaurant level chef, but I can tap almost anything with a wide variety of knives in the can pecking knife set. And I'm just flashing the beautiful heavy-duty action perfect for consumers. It's a great gift for the holidays. Kamikoto is currently out there for the Friday holiday sale. On top of that, nerd, go to Kamikoto.com.
I don't know the target.
Click the link in the top right corner or in the description box below.
Come with me as I on game day experience with the new Bose Lifestyle Collection. With the biggest stage in global soccer coming every time we setup. Speakers are the perfect performance and balance design. The subwoofer brings voltage to bass, and the soundbar delivers immersive Dolby Atmos. Crystal clear dialogue. From the royal to its biggest plays, the setup puts you right into the action. For watching the world's best compete on a global stage, this is the upgrade on match day setup. If you think about upgrading your sound system, check out the new Bose Lifestyle Collection.
Life is unpredictable. Good thing your car has the cup to keep up.
Taking the time to survey his surroundings, Aaron spots a brand new wooden axe lodged in a dry old stump. I've never understood why people are so careless with tools like this. Just make a device that they can use to break down your door and beat your ass to death. Although we started to mystery client doesn't show up at all, Aaron decides to put it out back in his car. The quickly they accumulate. That paints a disturbing picture of what is to come. Then there's the forced hug. It's always uncomfortable when someone acts like your best friend the second you meet them. There's a process to forging bonds with people, and each step is important. Trying to skip this process is like calling someone your girlfriend after the
Hello.
first date. It means you're either socially inept or you simply don't care enough about the other person to bother putting in the effort. It's a bit egotistical and disrespectful to think that everyone should just accept your forward advances without first establishing a genuine connection. I'm not saying you can't hug people when you meet them, or that Aaron should have uppercutted him the second Joseph. This is another yellow flag. Following the awkward introduction, Joseph reveals he has an inoperable brain the size of a baseball and has been given only 2 or 3 months to live. His wife of 6 years, Angela, is pregnant with their first and only child. It says they'll be naming it Buddy, inspired by the Michael Keaton My Life. Joseph wants to make a video showing his unborn child who he was, in case things take a turn for the worse. Aaron was asked why Angela isn't present in the cabin. It doesn't make any sense to exclude Joseph's pregnant wife from his My Life documentary. I find it odd
I'm
that
out of
Joseph
range.
said realize that you don't know the truth. If Buddy is typically a male name, it's a minor inconsistency that's excusable on its own, but all his other odd behaviors, it's suspicious. Aaron still knows literally nothing about this guy apart from the stories he's telling. He needs to get a last name and do a quick search on his smartphone while using the bathroom. He should also check around for family photos to verify Joseph's story. Aaron agrees to participate.
I need to get closer.
Shoved in his face immediately. Joseph then announces he'll be getting in the tub and sprints up the stairs before inviting Aaron to join him. Wait, what? Did I get the wrong version of this movie? Nope. To start his little documentary, Joseph wants Aaron to film him when he's in the bathtub. Aaron nearly walks over Joseph dressing and apologizes, but Joseph just shrugs it off, telling him he's going a lot deeper places than this. Just barely high enough. We're then treated to the sight of a grown man acting out some good old-fashioned tubby time with an invisible baby. I got it. He really gets into it. The freak show ends with Joseph lamenting his impending doom and even expressing some suicidal ideations. He even goes as far as to threaten suicide right then and there. Joseph begins to slowly sink his head under the water, seemingly trying to drown himself. He pops up several moments later to scare the hell out of Aaron for the second time in 9 minutes. He thinks this is hilarious. Doesn't go without saying. The bathtub is extremely weird, especially since he acts like it's a perfectly natural request. Talk about skipping process. I don't remember my school doing anything like that. Not to mention the way Joseph immediately runs up the stairs like a giddy child as soon as he mentions the tub, asking if Aaron's hungry and telling him that they're going much deeper than this while his pants are hanging off could almost be Freudian slips, except Joseph seems pretty deliberate with what he's saying. It's all pretty weird, but none of it even compares to the sheer creepiness of Tubby Time or pranking Aaron with a phony suicide attempt. With Tubby Time over, Joseph suggests they get some fresh air. He tells Aaron to grab a coat from the guest bedroom closet before they head outside,
I
giving
buy
him a
and
second
trade.
to walk the house unsupervised. Aaron should take this time to do some snooping around, making sure he has a clear understanding of where all the potential exits are, and look for any family pictures or
Good day to you.
verify Joseph's
Have a
story,
good
and
one.
give Aaron
Can
an
I help
idea of
you?
who Joseph is. If Joseph catches him wandering around, he can just play dumb, laugh it off, and blame it on a poor sense of direction.
What excites me about being a product manager now is that I can
See you
move and
around.
iterate much faster. I can use Claude to test my product ideas before I even get anyone else in the loop. I can operate much more independently, which is extremely empowering. Getting data as a product manager is really
Aaron pulls back the curtain as the closet to find himself face to face with a hideous wolf mask. Both fangs parted in a grin. Joseph explains the listeners Peach Buzz, the friendly wolf his dad created and totally not wears while digging around. He decides this is a great opportunity to treat his unborn son and future sociopath to the equally disturbing Peach Buzz song. It seems like Joseph intentionally directed Aaron to the closet, knowing the wolf mask was placed prominently and perfectly facing
Well met.
outward. If Joseph had just said,
Need
"Gotcha,"
help?
to the mask
Greetings.
and moved on,
Be careful.
off is another dumb prank. Joseph explaining that his dad created the Peach Buzz mask, along with a creepy song and dance to go with it, would lead me to believe that Joseph's odd behavior might be the product of a rather difficult childhood. The grimacing
Good day to you.
Seemed like something
See you
that
around.
Aaron would choose for his child. Aaron still knows absolutely nothing about Joseph that he can verify, but all the inconsistencies he's seen so far suggest this story and everything else he's learned about Joseph is total lie.
Looking for something
Aaron's been
specific?
around a fair bit of the house, and there hasn't been one
Safe
dish
travels.
from Joseph's family. There's no sign of his wife either. None of this is adding up. Aaron needs to make up an excuse to leave immediately, and then try to verify something about Joseph's story before even thinking of coming back. After the performance,
Looking for something specific?
matching Ushankas and set out for a
I
forest
supply only
trail.
the
Joseph
finest
says they're
goods.
looking for some miracle
Have a good one.
water. He and his wife learned about from the owner of a local taco truck. They hit the trail and Joseph immediately charges off ahead with reckless abandon. He suddenly stops, apparently having seen something in the trees. Without warning, he sprints off the trail and disappears into the vegetation. Aaron meekly calls after him before reluctantly following behind. Joseph pops up from behind a log, screaming bloody murder. Joseph comments on Aaron's very normal reaction to some lunatic jumping out at him. According to Joseph, the incredible sensation of terror that Aaron just experienced is what it feels like when you think
Hello.
you're about to die. He then accuses Aaron of giving off a murderous look.
Safe
For a couple
travels.
seconds following his near-death experience. There's a little peach fuzz in you yet, says Joseph. The two men continue down the trail when Joseph asks if Aaron wants to make peace with anyone before he goes. Aaron mentions he has an ex, which Joseph mishears as an axe. He then proceeds to tell Aaron that he has an axe back at the house. Like any normal, well-adjusted person, Joseph asks if Aaron thought he might use that axe to murder him when he first saw it out front. I doubt Aaron was smart enough to Google this trail ahead of time, but being alone with Joseph on an unmarked, unknown trail in a remote area with little to no pedestrian traffic is an awful idea. It's starting to feel like Aaron is the real star of this documentary, the way Joseph is constantly trying to get a reaction out of him. Joseph's infatuation with inciting the incredible feeling of near-death experience in Aaron, almost as if the true purpose of this project is to capture Aaron's genuine responses to extreme stress. Joseph really latches onto the fleeting glimpse of murderous intent that Aaron supposedly displayed following the break, taking it as a sign that he's got a little peach fuzz living inside him. Peach fuzz is supposed to be a lovable childhood character that his dad created that dances and sings. Now Joseph's using it to characterize Aaron's animalistic desire for homicidal retribution. We're talking about something he displays prominently in his home. Joseph is boasting about having an accident immediately after Aaron thought that Joseph was going to murder him with an axe, using it on his property. Demonstrates a very conservative frame of mind. Aaron should be starting to realize that coming out to along with Joseph was a very good idea, as was this entire job. Even the most oblivious and gullible human beings would notice the absurd amount of red flags by now. If Aaron doesn't have some sort of weapon on him already, he needs to find a rock or a sharp stick in case this field trip ends at a pre-dug hole. Panicking or doing anything to provoke Joseph, who's clearly mentally disturbed, would be a bad idea. Aaron needs to cooperate long enough to get out of there and mentally prepare for a fight. Running won't be an option. Aaron's far too out of shape for the distance they've covered, and he hasn't been keeping track of the path that they took coming in. After several forks in the trail, the only thing that they've found is a sewer line, and Aaron begins to wonder if they've gotten lost. Joseph takes off running like before, only this time he calls Aaron to join him at a nearby overlook. Looking over the edge, the natural morphology of the rock forms a crude heart shape near some rushing water below. The two Ponce de Leon splash around a bit in the shallows before anointing each other. After they hug it out, Joseph scratches J+A in heart on a nearby boulder, and then suggests that they head to a local restaurant for some of the world's best pancakes. We know from their introduction that Joseph's wife...
If we're gonna grind, we might as well get cooking.
Given everything we've seen so far,
Right?
it's a
Like,
safe
what
bet
are we?
that J+A he drew in the rock stands for Joseph and Aaron. This should
Hey
be
there.
a clear indication to Aaron that Joseph intends to make their relationship a permanent one. Aaron needs to be calling or messaging people he can trust
See
to
you
let them
later.
know his whereabouts and the details of his situation. Conflict with Joseph is all but inevitable at this point, so it would be a good idea to have some backup on the way. He should also make sure to keep his keys on him at all times in case the opportunity presents itself to get the hell out of Dodge. Upon sitting down at Billy Bear's, Joseph cracks open the menu, wondering out loud what might be any good. Aaron's confused by this.
The display shows every aspect of what the machine is doing, which helps us from a service.
As Joseph's family has supposedly been coming to this place for years, Joseph quickly shrugs off the suspicion. Mid-mouthful, Joseph asks Aaron if he's done anything he's really ashamed of.
How are you?
Learn that Aaron wet his pants so frequently that his parents invested in some kind of moisture-based alarm system that sounded every time he had an accident. One day on the playground, nature came
Safe
calling.
travels.
Young Aaron found himself soaked in urine while the alarm drew the attention of everyone around him. Joseph then asks Aaron if he can have a turn. He pulls out his phone and reveals photos he secretly took of Aaron upon he blames his shady behavior on his anxiety, claiming he just wanted to get to know Aaron before he got to know him. Joseph apologizes for being a creep and says he hopes that they can move past it. Aaron reluctantly forgives him. Aaron's decision to go back to more rain. Joseph checked the menu. He's been coming to the restaurant for years. Habits and menus. Aaron finds this suspicious after ignoring countless red flags is alarmingly stupid. Speaking of Joseph's family, why is Aaron still not asking about them and their whereabouts? A public restaurant is the perfect place to start grilling Joseph with complex questions that would be difficult to lie about on the spot. This would also be a great time to try to get his full name so Aaron can Google it right there. The revelation that Joseph was secretly photographing Aaron when he first arrived is yet another red flag on top of a mountain of red flags at this point. I could understand Joseph peeking out of his window to see who was at the door, but the fact that he took pictures from multiple angles, some eerily close to where Aaron was standing, and then spent half an hour looking them over before jump-scaring Aaron in his car, is not only deranged, but also inconsistent. Joseph said he only spied on Aaron because he was scared, except Joseph has presented himself as anything but shy or scared from the very beginning. Why is he even telling Aaron all this anyway? Aaron shrugging this off and saying he's moved past it, thereby maintaining an unprovoking posture until acceptable. When Aaron returns to the house and feeling the long staircase leading to the front door, Aaron tells him to head back home. His disappointment is glaringly obvious. He was hoping Aaron would stay for whiskey so the two of them could commemorate their day. He breaks out the oldest recommendation, begging Aaron to stick around for just one drink. He takes his road trip and agrees to hang around a bit longer. Under no circumstance would re-entering Joseph's home at night be reasonable for Aaron. This man is clearly a psychopath and has spent the entire day forcing a friendship rather than filming his video diary for his son. He needs to think of a rock-solid excuse to avoid being screwed over by his tendency of compromising to avoid confrontation. Joseph has proven to be very manipulative, so you can expect him to pull out all the stops to get Aaron back inside. You can almost see Joseph tugging at certain heartstrings while searching for the right one. He wants them to commemorate their new friendship with just one drink. This makes Aaron feel like a bad person for refusing to honor his friendship with a terminally ill man who only wants a little company. Joseph lowering the perceived level of commitment to just contact is another manipulative tactic. Couldn't possibly be able to spare 5 minutes. If it were Country Mac asking, okay, this is more like Dennis Reynolds' intimidation territory. Why he agrees to go inside when it's clear Joseph is a deranged, potentially dangerous person. Seated across from one another with their drinks, Joseph sets the tone for the occasion, saying, "This is great, huh? Two guys having some whiskey." He then asks Aaron if he decided to drive all the way out to Crestline to meet with him. When Aaron replies with the obvious answer that it was for the job, Joseph conjectures that he must be having money problems, having known him less than a day at this point. Joseph tells Aaron he wants to help him out by sharing his wealth with him. Aaron politely declines, just as any decent person would, but Joseph insists. He even tricks Aaron into searching his boot for a check he claimed to have planted, using the fact that he looked as further evidence he's in need of financial support. After a quick toast to themselves, Aaron's one drink is empty, and he gets up to leave. Before he can, however, Joseph confesses that he lied about something.
Whoa. What's that? I just put the budgeting app in base 24. Guys.
If you woke up in a maze of trapped cubes, what would you do? In this How to Be video, we'll follow the cube captives, see if we can make better decisions, and ultimately if you woke up in a maze of trapped cubes, what would you do? In this How to Be video, we'll follow the cube captives, see if we can make
What can
better
I do for you?
decisions, and ultimately attempt to beat the death maze in Cube. If If you think you have a better way, let me know in the comments. If you like these how to be videos, consider subscribing. Before we start, let me be clear. I'm not
Alliance.
good with math.
Hey
I'm
there.
positive I'm wrong about a lot of the things I talk about, so please correct me in the comments. I know you will. We start out following a man named Alderson.
See you
who
later.
woke up in a sci-fi looking cube. Imagine just going about your day and then waking up in here. You just
I
know
supply
you're not
only
gonna have a
the
good
finest
time.
goods.
This ain't an ordinary room, and nothing about it seems hospitable in the slightest. The first red flag is that
Safe
he's wearing
travels.
a prisoner's uniform, but there's no toilet, bed, food, or water. So this is arguably worse than a prison. Hell, even Gorang from the platform got these amenities. The good news is that it's not a straight up execution, or he'd already be dead. I guess it could still be an execution, and the cute people just want to have a little fun with him first. I mean, that's entirely plausible. However, it's most likely an experiment or gauntlet, in which case the only reasonable thing to do is assume you can win your freedom and become the Cube Warriors version.
So now we got the Gladius.
Alderson pops some doors open to see what's what, and when he opens the door to the blue room, there's a weird sound.
I guess we gotta keep grinding.
But when he opens
It like
red
expects
room,
us to have so much fucking money.
and when he
Why the
opens
fuck does it expect us to have so much
door,
fucking
a
money?
weird sound from the blue room plays. What that means, I don't know. Unfortunately, this looks
Like
like a
what?
trial and error puzzle, and I don't think you get a second chance.
Why does it expect us to have so much money? Let's try the normal one.
Well, that's the end of this guy's story. Rod didn't even know what hit him. You might feel sorry for this guy, but I think he got off easy. This was a fairly rudimentary trap for such a sophisticated environment, which makes me lean towards this being a game or gauntlet of some sort. They have to have cameras somewhere streaming to a pay-per-view audience. Because why would you waste perfectly good entertainment like this? It's probably an unpopular opinion, but I think they should bring back gladiatorial type games, upgraded with modern technology and engineering. Sorry, but Supermarket Sweep just ain't cutting it. One way to quench your bloodthirst is to check out Raid Shadow Legends. You can play on mobile if you're a casual, or desktop if you're a sweat lord. Most of you overestimate your abilities, and will jump into one of the 10 challenging dungeons where these bosses will execute you. You can also choose to march against the Dark Lord in the campaign, but you'll need to squad up with dwarves, orcs, the undead, lizardmen, demon spawn, or any of the 13 factions, 460 champions, who have their own aesthetics, skills, and strengths. You can play with friends or one of the 200,000 active clans to fight the millions of other players from across the world. No rules of engagement, no Geneva Conventions or protocols. The depth of strategies, content, and ways to play is only restricted by your will. I often wonder what champions and factions would realistically be the best. I'm leaning on the undead, but nobody thinks of the humans. Right now they seem less badass, but give them time, and the other factions are going to be dealing with tanks, jets, and nukes. So what's new? You can craft artifacts directly in the new Artifact Forge. There's an advanced quest system with more rewards, more champions, and the Doom Tower is under development. Links in the description to download the game. And if you're a new player, you'll get 100,000 silver, 50 gems, 1 energy refill, and 1 free champion, the Executioner. Rewards will be located here, but only for the next 30 days. Somewhere else in the cube, we have 2 other survivors, Quentin and Worth. Each person seems to wake up from a drugged state in a different room. The door next to them opens up and Quentin judo throws the woman to the ground. This nice lady's name is Holloway. In the background there's a loud noise like something large and mechanical is moving outside the room. Another girl, Levin, joins them, as well as a man named Ren. I say the more the merrier, considering somebody has to test out each room for traps. Now would be a good time for everyone to compare notes. Quentin and Ren already had experience with traps before meeting up.
Survival
It's likely
guide.
they both have encountered different types of traps, as well as the presence of other non-trapped rooms. It should also be apparent that they're in a maze of cubes that doubles as a minefield, and there should be a safe path around the traps and out of the maze. I initially thought that they might be playing some sort of 3-dimensional Minesweeper game, but there's nothing that indicates the number of trap rooms that they might be surrounded by. Right now, these are the two problems that they need to find solutions for: a trap detection method and where an exit would be. It's best to solve the first problem before moving on to the second. Until you can safely navigate the cube, finding an exit path is somewhat moot. Detecting what rooms are trapped is difficult because the traps are invisible until activated by a human presence. The way I see it, there's two ways this can go down. Either we're able to reliably physically detect and or cross traps, which is unlikely, or more likely there has to be a trap detection method that we haven't discovered yet. If there's not a way to reliably physically detect traps, it invalidates the player's decisions, which invalidates the cube's purpose as a game. But we already concluded that it's most likely a game, so in this case it means that there has to be another way to detect traps. I'd gather as much information that they can observe, which would amount to: 1. Does anyone have any useful skills or knowledge? 2. Is noise or no noise when opening cube doors correlated with traps? 3. Is the color of the room correlated with traps? 4. Are the room number plates in each cube correlated with traps? 5. The background noise appearing at random intervals? Or 6. Anything else that's not identical room to room? Besides these variables, everything else is identical and can't be used. Then I'd start manually testing all surrounding rooms for traps and assessing for any correlations of the above variables. Like Ren discovered, you can use your boot to trigger a lot of traps, enough to find correlations. But I want to be clear, do not use physical trap detection as a final determinant for a cube's safety. Our cube captives also decide to manually detect trap rooms, and with some initial success, they wrongly conclude that physically detecting traps is 100% reliable. While booting a room is fairly effective in detecting many traps, it's almost certainly catastrophically wrong. You only have to be wrong one time. Just ask Alderson. The problem, which they already know, is that there's a variety of traps that have a variety of activation triggers. A trap could detect a human based on motion, sound, and pressure, all things a boot would trigger, but traps also can be triggered based on thermals, chemicals, tripwires, and a host of other things like thresholds, time activation, location, specificity, and any combination of these. For example, a trap could be a spike that gets instantly thrust up through your body, but is only activated if you step on a certain tile of the room with 150 pounds of pressure for a minimum of 10 seconds, and only when a heat signature is present. It would be impossible to test this trap unless you physically walked into the trapped cube, and by the time you knew a trap existed, you were dead. If you have to move into another cube to further test your trap detection method, in addition to booting, I'd also try to test for thermals and chemicals by giving the unknown cube a nice slap from within the corridor. If that works, have one person cross the entire cube at a time while being ready to dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge. Our protagonists choose the logical yet seemingly too obvious strategy of going in a straight line while detouring around trap rooms. That same mechanical background noise starts up again, and Ren remarks that it's occurring in regular intervals. A piece to the puzzle, no doubt.
Everybody knows that the place to find a place is a
Police.com.
Let's set up my living room.
What can I do for you?
Come to think of it, maybe we're just in a giant shuffling Rubik's Cube and the goal is to solve it. But there's not a mechanism for shifting cubes, and the shifting is happening at random intervals completely outside their control. So I think that's a no on the Rubik's Cube. Levin and the crew discovered that there's serial numbers corresponding to each room. How the hell did they miss this? The rooms are practically identical. They're like two things. for 7 people to wander around. While we don't know how big the cube is, it has to be way smaller than they think. Even if they were room numbers, they don't seem to be sequential, so unless they're encoded somehow, they're no use for finding an exit. And even if they were sequential, we still don't know where an exit might be. So far, these numbers are not helping as a trap detection method, or finding a way out, which is considered and odd. From the 6 potential variables we've observed, none seem to be correlated to the solutions. The numbers do stand out though, because they could be some type of code. They must be missing something. The numbers have to mean something.
Numbers. What are they saying?
It is possible that they just need more information before they can figure out solutions. So heading towards the side and traveling along it while looking for exits would potentially give them the dimensions of the main cube. I'd also leave pieces of ripped clothing as line markers to indicate that they've already been in that cube and that it's not trapped in case they need to backtrack. Like we saw in my as above so below video, these little guys can be the difference between life and death. There's probably some benefit to repeating a partial amount of basic configuration, but I doubt they need that right now. It's only been a few hours. Red leads the next group, and while it looks full of traps, he holds the group up anyways. He says that the air is dry in there, and that there may be some sort of molecular sensor-based trap that detects hydrogen sulfide excreted from the skin. I don't know enough about biology to confirm or deny this,
What
but
can
the
I do
internet
for you?
does indicate that humans do
See you
produce and
around.
excrete this chemical in some manner. We can't prove anything, but it's probably a good idea to avoid rooms that present abnormalities that don't conform to the patterns associated with non-trapped rooms. Ren then reveals that he's a 7-time escapee of French prisons. It might seem like a good idea to follow a prison escape artist lead, but this is not a prison. If it was a prison, there would not be doors and there would be traps on every side. They are in a 3D maze that must have a path
What can I
out.
do for you?
They just
Things
need to
are different.
cautiously unravel the game's rules.
You need something?
Great advice, Houdini. I think we'll stop to think things through if that's chill with you. You got something on your face, by the way. It's now abundantly clear that physically testing traps is not reliable, so trap detection must be based on one of the aforementioned variables, likely the numbering system. Ren should have slapped the interior of the cube first before hopping in. It's pretty dumb for someone who supposedly knows a lot about sensors
How
to not
are you?
account
You
for
need
thermal
something?
sensors. His dodge game definitely was not on point either. Instead of diving out of the way, he just stood there and said, the rest of the crew does what they should have done a long time ago. Share information. As a cop, Ren was an escape artist. About Alderson other than he was one unlucky SOB. But what about the others? Okay, that's not helpful at all. We need specific details. That's better, but still too vague. Can everyone stop being intentionally opaque? Good God, nobody cares about your Edgar Allan Poe bullshit. Just give a straight answer. We're on the clock in a life and death situation here. Quentin uses his X-ray detective skills on the survivors to discover that Levin is a master. It really shouldn't have been hard to figure out, but everyone is wasting time being ambiguous for no reason. Levin uses her special math power to mysterious rooms. She determines that the trapped rooms that all at 3-digit for everyone that ignores the math class like prime numbers are numbers that only have two factors. One in themselves. None of these number sequences are primes, so the room is theoretically safe.
So that means safe.
Right, but like Quentin is trying to say, that's 2 data points, which is a low sample size to be a coincidence. If half the rooms were traps, you'd only be 87.5% confident in this method, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not. This whole time I've been speculating that the numbers mean something. Like what she's onto is worth testing, but you'll only know if the theory holds up with high degree of confidence once you've tested at least 10 rooms. But even then, the cost of physically checking a room is low, so you might as well sniff, slap, and boot every room anyways. The montage of them navigating rooms
Hey, I'm Lydia. I work on code here at Anthropic, and today we're going to plot tag, where let's collaborate right alongside you. At Anthropic, we can tag plot in for most of this year, so honestly, all of this is just and across Anthropic, plot tag opens 65% of our product pool requests. So for example here, we have a thing about the week out from shipping a product. So what's going on in engineering? Drew heard from a sales rep that one feature, scheduled
seems pretty convincing that prime numbers are the key to detecting traps. So they seem to have solved the trap detection problem, but they still haven't solved the exit path problem. Since there really isn't anything else they can use to determine an exit path, and the numbers were a form of key to half their problem, it's likely the numbers are also a key to the other half of their problem. It's a good thing 10 got face-shotted instead of 11, because there's no way they would have figured that out by themselves. On that note, they need to keep 11 alive at all costs, because she's probably their only chance of figuring out a way out of here. With the trap detection problem solved, they should continue heading towards the side of the cube so they can map out the potential dimensions of the main cube. Eventually, they hit a dead end with traps on all sides and are forced to back off. By now, they're probably getting claustrophobic, dehydrated, and a little bit delirious. This is where line markers are really nice to have. It would help lower the mental burden of having to do math and double checking each room you may have already been in. Their detour around the dead end is put on pause when they hear some noises coming from the cube above them. Quentin pops the door, and another person comes through. His name is Kazan, and he appears to have some type of mental disorder. On a side note, it's interesting how all of the captives are named and characterized after famous prisons around the world. Kazan has a mental condition of sorts, which relates to the Kazan Prison Mental Hospital in Russia. Quentin is male, and San Quentin is a prison for males. Likewise, Holloway is a female, and Holloway Prison is female only. Wren was named after the Wren Prison. Levin and Worth, well, Leavenworth. It's also kind of interesting that Levin and Worth are the only ones that share a prison name. I don't think any of this helps them, though. The captives continue their straight line path to the side of the cube while checking for prime number based trap rooms. But this time, there's a problem.
Stop!
Hey there. Hello. See you later.
This is exactly why I kept saying to tread carefully.
Greetings.
To think that prime numbers solved everything was foolish, even with it being a pretty successful strategy.
Go with honor,
Luckily
friend.
for Quentin, this trap gave him time to dive out of the way. The prime number trap detection theory is far from worthless, because there's obviously a significant correlation. It's just likely that there's some caveat or additional piece to it. Under investigation from Quentin, Worth reveals that he's an engineer that was contracted to build the shell of this cube, or sarcophagus, as he pessimistically puts it. He claims he knows nothing of the interior, except that the shell does not sit flush against the cube of cubes. Worth, you goddamn piece of I had a feeling that woe is me garbage was just a projection of guilt, or a diversion from his actual profession and affiliations. When questioned about who was in charge and why the cube was built and what its purpose is, he goes on a nihilistic tirade that it was just built because we could, and that nobody was in charge, and it was just a headless blunder operating under the illusion of a master plan. Okay, you just admitted that you were a victim of compartmentalization. And now you're claiming to know all about the cube. I'm not buying it. There's no point in being hopeless anyways. Now, armed with the information that Worth has knowledge of the exterior, Evan jumps in to question him further. Worth reveals that the cube is 434 feet squared, and that there is most likely a 1 cube worth of space between the shell and the main cube, and that there is a door on one side of the shell, but he doesn't know which side it's on. Wow, that was super important information we definitely confused earlier. Levin then goes on to measure the interior of the cube to be 14 feet in diameter, and deduces that 27 by 27 cubes would fit flush with the shell, so 26 by 26 cubes would be accurate according to Worth's statement. But 434 divided by 14 equals 31 rooms flush and 30 rooms with space. According to Levin's calculations of 27 rooms flush, 26 with space, that would mean each cube is 16 feet and some change. She's probably assuming 1 foot of hatchway on either side, plus some siding which makes up the difference. This means